I think the first few months that I was on the floor, there were definitely murmurs of, how can a female be an instructor? Look at her size, she's so small. And I mean, I am a small person. I'm 5'3" on a good day, I think, and not very heavy either. So yeah, I mean, that was the big challenge.
Swetha Subbiah was among the first few certified women trainers in Bangalore. And now, in over a decade-long career, she has made a name for herself in the fitness world by becoming among the few certified Nike instructors. She now also trains professional athletes such as Rohan Bopanna and players of Karnataka's Football Association. As she continues to take forward a fitness consultancy firm, Sweat by Swetha, she has also been passionate about getting more and more women to take up sports through Sisters in Sweat, an organization she co-founded along with Tanvie Hans, a professional football player. So let's listen to Swetha as she talks about her fitness journey. So how you been during this whole quarantine period?
Well, I've actually not been too bad at all. At the beginning of the quarantine, I guess like most, I didn't realize that it was going to go on for so long. So it took things quite easy. I was happy to take time off of work, which I really hadn't done for such a long time. And then I guess when we realized that, this was going to be a long-term thing, I had to sort of react quickly. I have a couple of, ventures that I'm involved with. So I had to pivot quite a bit with both of them to make sure that, we ride the tide, I guess, in some ways, and, get out okay. But yeah, it's actually turned out to be very, very busy for me, more busy than I would have been had this not happened. Just because I guess with things going virtual, there is really no on time, off time. Everything is sort of, you have to be available all the time, pretty much.
That's true.
So yeah, that has definitely changed. And so I would say it's probably become busier for me. And that's, I guess, a blessing to be able to say that while most people, are really struggling to, keep a job.
Yeah.
It's good to say that, I've been very busy. So yeah. Small blessings, silver linings, I suppose.
Yeah. So I know that you've always been into sports. In fact, you were part of Karnataka's under-16 hockey team.
Right. Sport has always been such an important part of my life and, so strongly rooted in my childhood. Growing up, I was one of 12 cousins who would, and every summer and Christmas, we'd go up to Coorg, which is where I'm originally from. And the summers or the holidays were just filled playing different sport, whether it was cricket or we'd go for a swim, or it was just a very active childhood. And I think if you know anything about the Coorg community, hockey is in our blood, so I kind of took up quite naturally to that sport. But I did play every sport that there was to be played at the school level at least. But hockey ended up being the one that I was slightly better at, I suppose. And so, yeah, I did play for the state of Karnataka under 16, yeah.
You didn't think of taking it further, like going more professional?
Well, at the time, and I think this was around the 10th grade when one has to take a decision on whether you continue down the sports route or you focus on academics. I decided, or, I guess it was almost like a no-brainer because no one ever thought you could have a career or make a career out of sport. Especially, in a sport like hockey and, being a female athlete. It didn't seem like a very sort of bright future. So I was happy at that time, I suppose, to just sort of, move into more of an academic line and focus on that because, I never thought I'd lose sport in any way. But as it turned out, so I went away to Canada to pursue an undergraduate degree after my 10th and 12th grade. And, it was hard to continue playing sport there only because, the class schedule was pretty hectic for me. And, that was around the time when I actually started hitting the gym to stay active.
So you were always into some form of fitness?
Yeah. Definitely. Physical activity has always been part of my life.
That's nice.
I think it took a dip in that first year of university, you're excited to be abroad away from the family with all the freedom in the world and you just want to go wild. So yeah, I was less active, I would say, in that first year of university. But then after that first year, and you sort of settle in and get some sort of balance into your life, activity again became a very important part of my life. I was in the university gym at least 4 to 5 times a week, working out. I joined the football team for our division. It was
Oh,
not a big
nice.
deal, but it just sort of kept me active. I played a
Okay.
lot of racquetball, which is the squash equivalent in North America. So yeah, I never sort of stopped being active, I would say.
So you are studying economics, you graduate magna cum laude, you come back, you're working
Yes.
for Ernst and Young, and
That's right.
what gave suddenly?
So when I came back and started working with Ernst and Young, I actually enjoyed my job. I can't say I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
And it was fun to, I guess, dress up in corporate attire and strut around. But I was certainly not passionate about that job. And I think by the end of the second year at E&Y, they call it EY now, sorry. I was pretty sure that I needed to get back into the world of sport or fitness, but the truth is I had no clue what I could do. I mean, at that point, obviously, it would be hard to join a team again. I was much older, hadn't
Okay.
played a team sport in a long time. So I was just sort of like looking around for opportunities when I met an entrepreneur who wanted to set up a luxury health club in Bangalore. And it was just sort of uh, an opportunity that came to my lap where he said, I'm setting it up. If you'd like, you can be part of my team to help set up the club.
Okay.
So I kind of jumped at it. It was obviously a cut in my salary from what I was earning, etc. But and I keep saying this, I'm very grateful to have had the privilege to make that choice to say, because I'm not the bread earner of the family, it's okay to take that cut in salary
Yeah.
and just pursue something you think you're passionate about. So that's how the switch happened, and that's how I got into the fitness industry by setting up this health club. It took us 2 years from the time I joined his team
Okay.
to have the gym open or the health club open for members. And those 2 years were extremely important in that I learned everything that one needs to know in order to set up a health club. And it's not as simple as buying equipment and having a physical space and then opening up for memberships. There's
Yeah.
a lot more that goes into it. And I had the good fortune of being part of that startup team to understand what it took to run a health club.
And that point of time, you had no experience in the fitness industry when you were opening up the health club. Did that daunt you?
No, not at all, because it was, the person I was working with, he was very good in sort of guiding me and the team as to what needed to be done. And to be honest, we were all sort of learning on the job. It wasn't like he had opened health clubs before; it was new to
Okay.
him. So it was an exciting time to sort of learn the different aspects of, and it's kind of like any business, right? It's a business at the end of the day. It
Yeah.
wasn't about fitness. Of course, it was also about fitness, but it wasn't only about fitness. It was about opening a successful sort of setup. So those 2 years were spent learning about the business aspect of things and obviously the practical aspects of setting up a health club. And when we were finally open for memberships, that's when I had this itch again to, I mean, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, but I want to do something a little bit more physical. And he actually suggested that I become a fitness instructor. And
Okay.
very honestly, at that time, I was like, absolutely not. And the reason being, my exposure, my understanding of fitness instructors at the time were men that looked really big, had big muscles, and there was a certain look to it. And I obviously did not fit that profile. And in the gym that I worked at, most gyms at the time, there were no female fitness instructors.
Yeah.
There might have been instructors in aerobics, etc., but not in the strength training space. So it seemed like a bizarre suggestion at the time.
Okay.
But I didn't have any other option that I was actively looking at. So I decided I'm going to just spend a few months on the gym floor. And I did things like replacing weights. I looked at and watched the other senior trainers train clients. And at the same time, I bought a few books and read up about, becoming a fitness instructor and, getting some basic knowledge on that.
Right.
And by the end of, I think it was about 3 months that I did that for, I realized that, this is something I'm really enjoying. And I think I could see myself doing this for quite a while, which is when I decided to invest in, a certification. I went to the UK to get certified. And I came back, and that's when I started my personal training career.
Okay. So I saw the host of certifications that you got. I'm sure it wasn't easy. So how long does it usually take for, say, to get certified, any particular certification?
Yeah, so a basic certification, I mean, there are different ways in which you can get it. A basic certification in fitness instruction should take about 2 months.
Okay.
It obviously involves learning anatomy, exercise, all of that. But what I did is did my basic instructor certificate and came back. And every year for at least 9 years after that, I went back to the UK over the summer and did a new certification. If you looked at the various certificates that I've done, kettlebell, I've done TRX training, I've done pre and postnatal training, posture analysis. So that, getting the basic certificate should take you no more than 2 to 3 months. But then after that, if you want to build on that, it's really up to you. Some of the certificates are a 2-day workshop. Some of them can be much longer. The last one that I did in performance training, which is to work with elite athletes, that one was a longer certification. Took me a longer while to do that. So it really depends on what you want to do.
Okay. So when it comes to the certifications, you still feel India is like getting it here is still way lagging in a lot of ways?
Oh, definitely. And, the ones that are recognized anyways are the ones that are not Indian. You have to do them online. And if you decide to, relocate to a different country, the ones that are offered in India are not recognized. So it's completely useless in some ways, right? So there is a big gap in terms of getting, proper certification that is Indian.
Okay. So you're one of the very few trainers who are certified as a Nike instructor.
Yes.
How hard is it?
Well, so I'll tell you about that process and how I became part of the Nike family. So about 6 years ago, I want to say, Nike launched its Nike Training Club program in India. Nike Training Club is actually an app. It's a free app that Nike offers that you can download and has various workouts in it. So what they wanted to do, or the plan was to have instructors in various countries do live sessions so people can come and attend those sessions and get a feel of the type of exercises that are in the app, and then they could go back and just download the app and do the exercises. And just generally build a community of people who train, and that's what that was the intention of getting Nike trainers on board. So about 6 years ago, I got an invitation from Nike, and they had invited a bunch of trainers from across the country to come do a 3-day camp. A training camp, and where we were tested on our practical and theoretical knowledge on training. And I guess there were other aspects also that went into becoming a Nike Training Club instructor at the time. So at the end of those 3 or 4 days, I think it was, we got picked out, and currently there are 4, if I'm not mistaken, 4 Nike Training Club instructors in the country. Yeah, so that was, I would say, in a way, a big highlight in my career as an instructor, because obviously Nike is, one of the biggest brands or the biggest brands out there as far as, and, I can remember as a child, you didn't even get Nike when I was little. So I can remember the first pair of Nikes that I got and how excited it would make me. And then years later to be part of the brand in some way, be associated with the brand was a dream come true. And it obviously opened up so many avenues for me and, raised my profile as an instructor. So very grateful for that sort of collaboration and association.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So you started, I think, 10 years back, if I'm right.
Yes, a little over, but yeah.
Okay, there. Yeah. So, I mean, now it's a little better when it comes to women trainers, but I can imagine back then it would have there would have been few and far between.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but do you still feel a bias towards women trainers are best suited to train women and men don't easily approach you?
I thought so, to be honest, when I first got started. In fact, I keep telling this story of how I was the only female instructor while there were 35 male instructors in the club that I worked at.
Yeah.
And, when I first decided to do this and I was talking to people, they were like, no one's going to want a female instructor. And because also most of the clients then were men and they were lifting heavy. But around about the time when I got certified, something known as functional training started to become very, very popular. And functional training didn't necessarily mean lifting uber heavy weights and, building big muscles. It was just becoming extremely fit and also using weights, of course, to do that. And I guess because there was a sort of paradigm shift in the way you in the way you train, I think people slowly got used to the fact that, you don't need a big guy assisting you with the weights to become fit. You need somebody who understood the human body, understood the way in which you need to train. And so, I would say for the first couple of years, perhaps there was a little bit of a bias. I didn't feel it too much also because I think I was one of the few instructors who had gone abroad to get a certification. And you know how it is. You think if you've gone abroad, it's something better. And to be fair, given the state of affairs, yeah, it was better to be certified abroad than to be certified in India. So I had that sort of to ride on. And then I think, yeah, the more that functional training became, something that people became aware about, it didn't, at least in my personal experience, it didn't really make a difference. In fact, I always have had more male clients than female clients.
Okay, that's nice.
But that's also because there were more males training, perhaps.
Right.
But yeah, it was quite natural that the female clients gravitated towards me also because I was a female and they could identify. So I think in many ways my stars have been aligned as far as my training career has been concerned in terms of timings and opportunities and all of that. So yeah, for the most part, I think I didn't struggle too much with that issue.
Okay. So now you find even, say, male athletes eagerly wanting to approach you. They don't see, okay, it's better to go to a man.
So I don't personally feel it. I have trained elite male athletes, and there wasn't an apprehension about my training style versus a male's training style. But I don't doubt there are still people out there who feel they would prefer a male instructor. At the end of the day, training is a physical thing, and when you think about the physical aspect of it, the easy perception is men are stronger, so they're probably better at what they do. As far as physical training is concerned. So I sort of get where they're coming from, but it's not true. And you need to be an instructor. It's not about being, having big muscles. It's about being able to understand and how to manipulate your body to do all the wonderful things it can. And you need a good instructor for that, not somebody who necessarily just has big muscles.
So what has been your biggest personal challenge this past 10 years?
Biggest personal challenge. Wow, I'm on such a sort of positive spree that I forget what the challenges were. Like I said, I suppose initially it was just breaking into it and establishing myself as a trainer, which again, don't want to say was too much of a challenge. It seemed like a seamless thing. It progressed fairly well, but definitely I think the first few months that I was on the floor, there were definitely murmurs of, how can a female be an instructor? Look at her size, she's so small. And I mean, I am a small person. I'm 5'3" on a good day, I think, and not very heavy either. So yeah, I mean, that was the big challenge, I think. And then, of course, every time I wanted to do a certification, it wasn't easy to find one to do here. Luckily, I would anyway spend my summer in the UK, so I ended up doing it there. And, it's not cheap to do certifications in fitness, especially in the UK. So the fact that, the challenge was that there wasn't the opportunity here in India to do those certifications. And then the other big challenge, if there was one, and I have to say that this was before Nike happened for me, was just having a female mentor, in the fitness industry. I did not have one. No one I could look up to, at least locally in a way. I didn't have a network of other female instructors. And it's nice to have that community. And I didn't have that until Nike happened. And of course, after Nike happened, a whole other world opened up to me of, not just female instructors in general that I could sort of relate to. So yeah, those were I would say, some of the challenges.
This is a two-part question that I want to ask you. Among your women clients, what is the biggest myth or hurdle that you had to make them see a different point of view that you had to come across?
That one's so easy. Every female client that I've come across has been deathly scared of gaining big muscles. And that's something that I've had. I have a good time with that one.
Still,
less so now. Less so now, but I mean, I wouldn't say it's gone by any stretch of the imagination. The first thing they be like, I don't want to get big muscles.
Okay.
And I have to explain to them, and tell them, hey, Arnold Schwarzenegger had a really tough time getting the muscle size that he has. I mean, it took not just, heavy weight training. It took the testosterone in his body and supplementation to get to that size. And you are in no danger of going there. So I think that's the biggest myth, is like getting big muscles. And I'm so scared of that, which is really a big myth.
Okay. So the other question I wanted to ask you is, the US women's soccer team, they won the World Cup last year.
Correct, yeah.
And when the coaches, when they were training them, so much focus was given on each player's cycles were tracked, the menstrual cycles. They tracked their infradian cycle. So do you find that awareness here among whether it's trainers or even among women? Because I wasn't always aware of this. For me, it's like, okay, if I go to the gym, I do my lifting weights or cardios and functional. I don't keep track of my cycles. So what do you think needs to be talked about that?
To be honest, it's only at the elite athlete level where performance is such an important factor that you really need to track those cycles carefully. I think at a general population level, It really doesn't matter. You sort of play it by ear. If you're really feeling down and out and you don't feel like you want to train that day, you either take a day off or you just do a low intensity workout. So yeah, tracking cycles becomes only important when it comes to performance and you're competing. It's not something that I really think needs to be discussed amongst the general population. And even amongst that, there is, two schools of thought. Some people say it's not important to track it, but obviously, we'll agree with the women's soccer team because they won and they did extremely well. We'll say that approach worked.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about Sisters in Sweat that you started with Tanvie Hans? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So that's definitely my passion project right now. And, at least it started off like that, continues to be that, but it's also grown into a very, wonderful community and a good business as well in that sense. So the way it started was quite, we never planned for it to become this. Tanvie Hans was also in a Nike commercial that I had done. I don't know if you remember years ago, I think about 5 years ago, there was one with Deepika Padukone, and it was just talking about female athletes in India and encouraging sport among. So I was part of that, and so was Tanvie Hans. So we ended up doing a bunch of like marketing and I think a couple of interviews after that, virtual interviews. We had never met. And then she happened to be in Bangalore because her extended family lives here. So she happened to be in Bangalore to visit them. And she had also planned to move to Bangalore to continue pursuing her football career in India. I don't know how much you know about Tanvie Hans, but she is an Indian for all practical purposes, but has inherited a British passport, which is why she was in the UK playing with the Tottenham Hotspurs, one of the top teams there, Fulham ladies as well. She played there for a few years and then, and she decided to come back to India and she wanted to play for India. But of course, the hurdle there was that you needed to have an Indian passport, which she didn't have at the time. So anyway, so she did this commercial with Nike and I was a part of it and we had met a few times virtually. And then she relocated to Bangalore and we became fast friends. And one night it was a friend's birthday and I told her to come along. This is a funny story because my friend, whose husband's birthday it was having a conversation with Tanvie. I just introduced her. I said, this is my friend Tanvie. She's a footballer. And my friend was very keen on learning a sport, in particular hockey, but she was having a hard time finding a coach to, teach her. And she was like, you play football, teach me football. Kind of like that's how the conversation went. And I have to add, there was alcohol involved. So nobody really took that conversation seriously. But Tanvie told my friend, okay, sure, I'll teach you, but why don't you bring a few girls together so we can play a little game at the end of the training session. So literally that conversation, I think, happened on a Saturday. And then the next week, Sunday, is when we had decided we were going to meet at a field to just play a fun game, and Tanvie was going to teach us a little bit of football. I perked up and said, you know what, a lot of, she's going to call some of her friends, and I'm assuming most of these women haven't played sport in a really long time. And then the risk of injury is very high if you just decide to show up one day and start playing sport, So how about I start the session by doing a warm-up and preparing the body to the best of my ability to play the sport, and then you take over and teach them the football drills, and we'll end with the game. So that was the plan. We were expecting my friend to bring maybe 3 or 4 girls. I had contacted a bunch of my friends saying, hey, we're doing this next weekend, join us. Well, and that Sunday morning we showed up, Tanvie and me, thinking 3 or 4 girls would show up, but 17 women showed up.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, as we were on the field and, one woman would walk by them, the next one would come and the next one would come, and we're like, what is going on here? Like, I was so pleasantly surprised to see that so many women had showed up on that first session. And so we did it exactly like that. I started off the session with some warm-up drills and some performance training stuff, and then Tanvie took over. And, at the end of it, it was just such a super fun session that the girls who attended were like, can we do this every weekend? And so Tanvie and me also, who had a great time doing it, said, of course we can. And we created a little WhatsApp group, which at the time were these 17 women, and they just kept inviting their friends. And, we started doing it every weekend. And before you know it, we're over 350 women. And, we've ventured into other activities. And of course, now during this time, we've gone virtual with the activities that we provide. And we've built a lovely community of women, like-minded women who support each other, who are passionate about healthy living, sustainability, just very conscious women in every sense.
There are now about 350 members?
Yes, and growing. Every day we have new members joining our community.
Oh, that's wonderful. And this happens every weekend?
So the football sessions are now on hold, clearly. We will probably resume soon and slowly. But what we ended up doing because of, the situation is that we pivoted our offering to the virtual space, and we started offering, a high intensity training session, which I do. We have a Pilates session, we have a yoga session, we have a dance session, and all these women are all these instructors are women from the community. So it's really nice that now, you can book a session on our website for any of these classes and attend them. And hopefully in September, we can slowly get the physical sessions going again. But what we found is that the virtual space, we were able to reach a lot more women, women that were not from Bangalore necessarily, outside of Bangalore, because a physical session is quite limiting in that you can only accommodate so many people, and you have to be geographically, I guess, and we didn't have that problem with the virtual space. So the community now has, because it wasn't just about playing a sport. That was one important aspect of the community for sure. But I think the other big aspect was the community itself and what, each person and each personality brought to it. And that was, we've realized, another huge pull, which is why, when we've gone virtual, the community has grown exponentially overnight.
Okay. So what is, with so many women coming forward, what has been the biggest reason why you come across that they've given up sports? Because men are still playing sports.
Exactly. And, that's the whole reason why, Tanvie and me are like, we're going to make this big. We're going to go to every city in India and make sure that women have the opportunity to play again. I think initially, after school and college, I can't give you a straight answer as to why women stopped playing sport, because I would continue playing if I had the chance. It's just that there were no other women playing after school and college, which is why one of the reasons I stopped. I continued playing badminton and squash, but you don't need a whole bunch of women to do that. You need one other person, whether it's a man or woman, doesn't matter. But for sport, I honestly can't give you the reason as to why they stop. I feel like it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy where, they assume no one's going to play, so they don't make the effort, and, it just becomes like, and they tend to go into classes like aerobics and those type of group classes, and that's what they end up doing. And forgetting how much fun playing sport is. And of course, I think once you become a mother, your time becomes so much more limited, and maybe the convenience factor, I'm not sure, but that's something that I still don't have a clear answer on why women give up sport after college.
Okay. Do you feel it's because already the resources are limited, and often it's it's more men who are out there in the fields playing. So
Are you referring to financial resources?
no, just like a playground, like
Right.
a, or like,
No, definitely that's one of it.
because we women, we hesitate to occupy public spaces, which is what
That is so
yeah.
true.
So do you think that is a reason?
No, definitely that could be one of the contributing factors. And yeah, I feel like, for some reason, sport has always been something that's almost like synonymous with men more than it has been with women for some reason. And so, it's almost like a natural progression after, school and college, you'll find a group of guys and you'll continue playing. With women, for some reason, it's just not the case.
Yeah,
But I'm glad that's changing.
that's good.
And also with your point of occupying public spaces, it's a really good point because last year Nike did a campaign called Make the World Listen. I don't know if you followed that at all, but we went to Bombay and we had over, I want to say about 2,000 odd women run in their sports bras.
Okay.
And the point of that was, when as a woman, if I want to go out and work out in the park, for example, or even go for a walk or a run outside, I've got to think 100 times about what do I wear? Am I going to be safe?
I agree.
And it's quite ridiculous because, yeah, these are public spaces and they belong to women as much as they do to men. We should have at least 50% access to them. But, because of all of these reasons, we
Yeah.
don't go out and, do the things that we should be doing without having to go through a list of things in our head. So it becomes almost like a deterrent. So maybe even going to a football field before felt like, oh my God, I have to go. What do I wear? Is it safe? All of those questions, right? With this community, obviously, because we're an army of women going in together, perhaps,
Yeah.
the girls feel safer to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be definitely another contributing factor.
Okay. So how fast do you think the fitness industry is evolving? There seems to be some some new stuff, like now there's so much craze about
Yeah.
animal flow.
Yeah.
So do you get overwhelmed or trying to keep up with all the stuff you have to keep learning?
Well, I personally no. Well, yes and no. I'm animal flow certified as well, so I got caught up in that whole rush.
Yeah, I saw
No, but
that.
it's a great practice. I enjoyed it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of noise in the space, and I think it's up to you. I mean, from a fitness instructor's perspective, it's really up to you to understand what your niche is. For me, I think I was always passionate about sports, so performance training was, at some point I was very clear that that's the route I wanted to take, and anything to help work with elite athletes to improve their performance is what I want to do and want to continue doing. So I understand now the different I understand the trajectory that I need to take. But if you're new to the industry, yeah,
Right.
there's so much there, and where do you start, or where do you start is simple, but then where do you go from there? Do you become like an animal flow specialist? Do you become a kettlebell specialist? Do you do a little bit of everything? Do you become a jack of all trades? So yeah, it's a confusing space. I think initially I was a bit of a jack of all trades, and it's helped me though. Having the kettlebell certification, having the animal flow certification, I use all of these the learnings from all these different certifications into a personal training session. And they help my client. So yeah, there is a lot of noise, and it's important for you as an instructor to sort of wade through that and figure out what you want to focus on and what's best for your practice.
Okay, nice. So what are the main qualities do you think a fitness trainer should have? The important qualities?
I think, first of all, the most important thing is that a fitness trainer, in some ways, is like a psychologist of sorts, right? Like it's like a bartender. You walk into the bar, and sometimes the cliche where you let out all your problems to the bartender. The bartender patiently listens. So in many ways, you need to be that person where when a client comes in, you patiently listen and understand what their goals are, why their goals are, get into the emotional reasons as to why this person wants to achieve a certain goal. Even if it's, I just want to look great, even if that's the case, there's always an underlying reason. So
Yeah.
one, the ability to listen and understand why somebody wants to sort of get fit or do a certain task. The other thing is that the other important quality is that the instructor needs to be very, very motivational. I think a lot of people come into a one-on-one session or a group training session, and they're looking to the instructor to motivate them. Okay. And so if you are low on energy and you're just like accounting or
True.
just like seem uninterested, that's not a great quality to have, because your clients are coming to you in a large part to get that motivation, to feel motivated. And, it's good to look the part as well, because, you have a goal to work towards. I think making sure that your instructor is certified is extremely, extremely important. There are a lot of, because the industry is so unregulated in India, anybody who, has a bit of muscle definition in the past, at least, could easily become a fitness instructor. I remember in the early days when we were hiring, certification wasn't the most important thing. If you had 3 years of experience training without the certification, you'd still get hired. And some gyms still do that in India. Of course, in Europe and America, you could never get away with that. You have to be properly certified. In India, it's still a very unorganized space, so make sure your instructor is certified, I would say. So, yeah.
Okay.
And also like make sure that, in the first session, they just don't go ahead and start the workout, because that's a big red flag. You need to understand what your client's exercise history, medical history is, understand their goals. If their goals are, unrealistic, set real goals, set goals as well to work within a time frame, make it realistic. So those are some of the things that, I would always say, do a trial session, make sure the energy is right as well, because these are two, people interacting with each other. And I could be an amazing instructor by all, on paper, but maybe you and I just don't work well in a client instructor relationship, and that's perfectly normal. But yeah, that's another thing to sort of keep your eyes and ears open for while you're choosing a fitness instructor.
Okay. So what are your plans moving forward? At least I know with this COVID thing, it must be a little, but eventually, yes.
Well, yeah, for me, yeah. I mean, I think the COVID situation is actually, initially at least gave me a little of headspace to just step back and figure out what it is that I want to do with my career and, generally. There are three things I think in particular that I want to talk about. One is my personal career as a personal trainer. One is my company called Sweat by Swetha, which is a fitness consulting company. And then there's Sisters in Sweat. Those are the three things that I'm actively involved in. As a fitness instructor on my own, I want to get more and more into performance training and working with elite athletes. I have had, the good fortune of working with elite athletes, footballers, cricketers, tennis players, Rohan Bopanna being my last client. But I want to continue to go down that path and, improve my skill set as a performance coach. And, that's a never ending journey in a way. Like you can keep getting certified, you can keep sort of learning new things. And I think with every new client that you get, you learn as well, right? With every new sport, you learn as well. So that's true. As far as Swetha Subbiah, the fitness instructor, is concerned. As far as Sweat by Swetha, my fitness consulting business, my business was very much geared into setting up commercial health clubs as well as setting up corporate health spaces and designing corporate wellness programs. So I hope, in the years to come, that business will grow and I'll be able to reach out to a lot more corporates and get more involved, because, having spent a short stint, I would say 2 years in E&Y, I think it gave me a big insight as to, all the shortcomings, or all the potential issues that somebody who's involved in corporate work day and night face as far as their physical fitness is concerned. And of course, I've, being a fitness instructor for 10 years and primarily, initially, at least having corporate clients, I understand, what the issues there are. So yeah, definitely to grow that business. And I'm also going to be launching an online personal training portal with Sweat by Swetha, where I will recruit other instructors to give sessions, Zoom sessions, online virtual sessions, since that has now become the new thing to do, I suppose. And of course, with Sisters in Sweat, which is like possibly, the most exciting thing that's happening right now in my life, is to reach out to a lot more women, to get those physical sessions started whenever, that's possible, be in a lot more cities. So I think there with Sisters in Sweat, new things keep coming up, so.
Are you looking at starting with more games, more sports for Sisters in Sweat?
Definitely. In fact, just before the lockdown, we were about to launch Ultimate Frisbee. And later in the year, we were going to launch basketball and box cricket, which is a short format of the game, the cricket game. Obviously, that all of that has come to a grinding halt for now.
Yeah.
But with no doubt that we will resume when it's safe to do so.
That's wonderful. And I really hope it, expands to more cities and, because I really like this concept of getting women back into sports.
Yeah, and I really hope to see you there.
If you start one in Madras, Chennai, I will definitely.
Of course, Chennai is on the cards for us, for sure.
Oh, great. That's wonderful to hear. I will look out for it.
Definitely.
But thanks so much, Swetha. It was a fun, wonderful chat.
Thank you. This was great for me as well. Great chatting with you, and hope to do more of these in the future.
Yeah, that'll be good. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at Maharani Talks. Until the next one, take care.